Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. I found an interesting article today. So, if you've been following this channel at least since January, you know that I have been exercising, taking supplements, taking nootropics, trying to overall better myself this year, which means taking supplements such as creatine. And this has come up before, but I found this interesting article, which I'll get to it in the end, but it really debunks itself. But of course, it has the catchy headline that's going to have people going to read it. But if they get to the end of the article, wow, you completely wasted my time, which was kind of the sentiment I had once I read it. And here's why. So, according to this article, it's titled Popular Supplement Under Fire, Creatine May Not Help Build Extra Muscle. So, this was a study that was done by the University of New South Wales, which means that it's in the UK, and I already have issues with this because I have several issues with the UK who seem to think that V for Vendetta was a self-help program for governments. It was a program for them to implement. Like, I don't know what's going on over in the UK, but if I criticize them anymore, even here on YouTube, I'm afraid that some cops are going to show up at my house saying that I somehow offended the king or some shit, okay? Because that's kind of how they're acting these days. So anyways, this group of researchers at this university, their study found little to no impact when taken at a recommended dose, and the dose was 5 grams, okay? These days, it seems to be, from the stuff that I've bought, just one scoop. The one tiny little scoop that you get with it is either 3 to 5 grams. The ones I have is 5 grams. So that was the daily dose that they were giving, and they also, what they did was it was a randomized control test where they had 54 participants. It ran for 12 weeks, and half of the people participating took creatine. They did start taking it every day, 1 week prior to starting weight training. So these are all beginners, right? These aren't people that regularly go to the gym. They're taking the creatine for a week. Week 2, they start going to the gym. However, I'm also going to criticize the exercise regimen, which was, I believe, less than 150 minutes per week. Not a whole heck of a lot, okay? So these, I believe it was 3 days a week, but that's not, my opinion, that's not a whole hell of a lot. So the end result was that basically on average, everyone gained 2 kilograms of lean muscle. After 12 weeks, 2 kilograms times that, let's see here, times it by 2.2, that's just over what, 4 pounds? 4 pounds? Pretty good, right? 4.5. So, yeah, even though they were taking 5 grams, there was no difference between the people who were taking it and the people who didn't take it. However, in the first week of taking creatine, they noticed that, especially with the women in the group, that they gained 0.5 kilogram, which would have been just over a pound of weight, especially with the women. But their overall argument is that the benefits of creatine may have been overestimated in the past due to methodological problems with the previous studies. So of course they're attacking the people who previously studied creatine, saying that, like, well, our findings found this. However, Again, they contradict themselves. So they also point out that there's potential for creatine to cause water retention. So they're trying to say that, like, you may gain weight by using creatine, but it's that your body is holding more water than it normally would, which, from my understanding and researching creatine, it's pretty well known that it helps the muscle fibers hold more water, therefore increasing the mass of the muscle, which is why you end up with that boost. So what they're arguing is that it doesn't increase the muscle, you're just holding more water, which the majority of your body is water anyways, right? So how you're holding the water, this is chemistry, okay? It doesn't matter, like, are your fat cells holding the water? Do you feel more bloated? Are you... Would you rather have the muscles holding the water or have it going somewhere else? I guess is the biggest question. So the study also suggests, and this is where they start contradicting themselves, it suggests that maybe 5 grams is not enough. And, you know, there's some reason for that. A lot of people who use this supplement will point out that as you get bigger and you start increasing more muscle mass, you will have to use more creatine over time in order to make up for the muscle mass that you already increased. So, yeah, you keep taking that low dose, you're not going to see a whole hell of a lot of difference. The previous trials found that 1 kilogram extra, this was the ones prior to this, the people who use creatine over a 4 to 12 week time period would have gained an extra kilo of muscle mass compared to the people who didn't take creatine. This is what they found, and I'm assuming that this is with the 5 grams extra, but it doesn't go into what their exercise regimen was, how often they were working out, recovery, diet, none of that, okay? So let's see here. So all the participants in this study that's claiming that creatine has no benefits were between the ages of 18 to 50, all relatively healthy. Again, they don't define this, but the study, there was a link to the study on this article. But they also suggest that perhaps 10 grams of creatine is the magical dose because it's been shown to increase brain and bone health. So what is it? Like, did you use the wrong dose? And now you're putting out this study where you're suggesting to a whole hell of a lot of people who use creatine that it's not beneficial to you, you shouldn't be using it, blah, blah, blah. This is what the title of the article implies, okay? It's that there's no benefit to taking creatine. However, they start making suggestions towards the end of, like, maybe we should be using 10 grams. And they want to... This is where they're pitching to do further studies, is what it is. Maybe we can get another grant. And then they also point out their own flaw in their study, which is that it's known for beginners of weight training to have gains, noticeable gains in the first 12 weeks, 3 months, right? So you're lifting weights. By the end of 3 months, you're going to see some changes. But then they talk about how it plateaus after 12 weeks. So now they're suggesting not only should you be using 10 grams, perhaps, we'd have to do a further study, but that the real study should start after the initial 12 weeks to see if they go past the beginner's peak and if there's any noticeable differences by using creatine after the 12-week mark. So in the end of the article, there's more questions than answers, and they contradict their own study, and they definitely contradict what they were saying about creatine to begin with. Like, perhaps there's no benefit. And then they're like, yeah, we just need to study this more. This is where we're at. This is why one week eggs are good for you, and the next week eggs are bad for you. And one week meat is going to give you dementia, red meat. And then the other week it's like, oh, it's great for bone density and memory function. These people, it just seems like our tax dollars, and I know this was the UK, but we do the same stupid stuff here, right? It seems like our tax dollars go to fund these different studies through grants, which, why are we giving universities grants when they already overcharge for tuition? Because everybody's got these student loans that there's no limit to the student loans, so the universities can charge more because the students are like, oh, well, that's like 40-year-old me that has to pay that back. And then they get to be 40 and they're like, I hate me. And why are our tax dollars going to these people? Because this is how they spend it. A piss poor put together study where they come to a conclusion, and then they ask more questions afterwards that should have been asked beforehand, right? Like, it sounds like they know about the beginners bump with weight training when they first start out. Well, let's see if there's any increase in the first 12 weeks. Oh, wait, let's see if there's any increases after 12 weeks. Oh, we can't do that now because we don't have the grant money to continue on with this testing. So my conclusion is that the study, in my opinion, is wrong. That there's more than just this one study. This is one study. And they're posting articles on the internet about it, about how everything we know about creatine is a lie, and then saying at the end, like, well, maybe, kinda, we don't know. It's all about clicks. All this crap is just about clicks and grant money. I hate these people. These people suck. Creatine, in my opinion, I saw some of my best gains at the age of 30 after starting to take creatine. I also developed some temporary health issues with kidney pain while taking probably too much creatine. I still found gains after I reduced how much I was taking. I stopped taking it for a bit. I went back, cut that in half, continued using it, continued having really interesting gains. As for whether or not it's good for brain, bone density, I did see a boost once I started taking 10 grams per day, which initially I took 10 grams because I was starting to see some nice gains in the weight training. But then I started reading about how that was the magic dose for like brain fuel. And at the same time, I started seeing some increases in that, even though I was already taking nootropics. So, am I a fan of creatine? I don't think you can go wrong with it, honestly. And I don't know if they're producing it different than they were 10, 15 years ago. It's a hell of a lot different than it was back then. So I'm going to say, in my opinion, talk to your doctor. I don't have a problem with it. And I think it's more beneficial than the issues that, what is their argument here? It's a waste of money? People waste money all the time. No, don't waste it on creatine. No, that's bad. You want to buy some expensive shoes? Buy the shoes, not creatine. You're wasting your money. So that's that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know what exactly their argument is against it, other than they just found that it didn't benefit more than just regular diet and exercise. But then they also point out the brain and bone health. So, anyways, read it for yourself. Take from it what you will. I look positively on creatine for several different reasons, and I think that this was really just a poor study. And it's from the UK, so I'm not surprised. Keep on typing.